Do you trust Netflix? That's a question that you'd have to ask yourself if you're ready to watch some biblical content on Netflix itself. Of course, we see The Chosen on Netflix, so maybe it's not too bad, right? But The Chosen isn't made by Netflix. So can Netflix really put together a biblical banger? I'm not 100% sure about that. We're going to take a look at this trailer for Mary, which is a new movie that's coming out in 2025 about Mary and the birth of Jesus and kind of the circumstances surrounding it. However, the take on it, it has my my Christian senses tingling, my accuracy senses tingling. Let's look at this and determine if it's something that we'd be interested in or not. Let's jump in. Here we go. So I'm going to pause this throughout, obviously, and let me resize this so we can see it properly. Obviously, right off the bat, there's some weirdness happening, right? We've got Joseph and Mary. Joseph is on a horse. Jesus is born here. Mary is standing off to the side. This is obviously like a cinematic, dramatic shot, right? So maybe a lot of the things that we're seeing within this movie are more kind of like over the top, dramatic, sort of like cinematic type stuff instead of accurate type things. But we're going to look through this. There's definitely some parts that seem like it's definitely accurate and some other parts that I very much question. And so let's walk through this here. I just find this opening scene to be a little bit weird with Joseph on a horse here and Mary standing with baby Jesus on the side there.
But I was chosen for this.
So obviously on Netflix
Mary,
here.
Your birth was a gift for your mother and I.
So this is Mary's father, and I'll turn on the closed captioning so you can see. But he says, your birth was a gift for your mother and I. He's talking to Mary here. This is not like Mary or Joseph talking to Jesus. This is Mary's father talking to Mary, it seems like. This is kind of weird, and this is where my first kind of red flags went up when I immediately watched this trailer. And here's why. Because there are some really strange traditions when it comes to Mary in general, and it depends on what tradition you're coming from. So are you coming from a more Catholic tradition? Are you coming from a more Protestant evangelical tradition? Something else, right? So you see in some Catholic traditions, they believe that Mary was not only sinless, right? But also that she was born from someone who was sinless or came into the world in a special way. Okay. There's no evidence of this in scripture. There's no evidence that Mary was sinless in scripture. And I know some of you are going to fight me on that. Don't worry about it. Let's not argue about it. Just let's talk about it. But here he's saying to Mary that she was a gift to her mother and him, and then he continues on.
It was a miracle.
It was a miracle. So there's something special about her birth to where Mary is immaculately conceived, and then that brings us to Jesus, who is also an immaculate conception, right? So the kind of theoretical understanding there is that if Jesus came into the world and he was sinless, he would have had to come from someone who was also sinless, which is where that theory kind of comes from. I don't see that in scripture biblically. I don't see that really panning out in any way. So for me personally, it's not something that I would definitely hold to. That was the first red flag though. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm interpreting what they're saying here in a different way, but that was the first red flag for me as I was watching this trailer. So if you guys have not heard about Artsabox, we talk about Artsabox, a couple of times, every other month or so. These come out once a quarter. I love these boxes. This box in particular, you can see has the Israeli flag on it. And this box is specifically to kind of remember and to support victims and survivors of the October 7th attack that happened in Israel. Go to artsabox.com and type in snipe20 at checkout, and that is where you'll get 20% off of one box or 30% off of a yearly subscription, which is a lot of money actually off of that box. First off, we got right here some date and cocoa balls filled with hazelnut butter. It's like a It's like a less sweet Reese's. Here, this is called an ahava stone, or in other words, love stone. And what it says there in Hebrew, it says, at the edge of the light, there is more light. So it's saying, even when you think the light is gone, there's more light to come. God is still good. This might be my favorite thing because it's what I buy every time I go to Israel. And I'm so glad this is in the box. This is a winter infusion. And so you put it in a glass, you put it with hot water, and then you can either cool it down for a cold drink or you can keep it hot for a tea. And that is amazing. Last time I went to Israel, I took like 5 pounds home with us of different infusions from the market in Jerusalem. I just want to shout out Artsabox. They're amazing. Not only do they do an amazing business in and of itself, but also they're helping local businesses in Israel. So it's really, really helping local businesses to stay alive. And then on top of that, they're helping to support some of these victims from October 7th. So really, really, really cool stuff. I know a lot of people in the community have gotten their Archer boxes already. If you haven't gotten it yet, or if you haven't signed up for a yearly subscription or gotten even one box, use my code. It's 20% off of one box, 30% off of an annual subscription. That's artsabox.com. Use code SNIPE20. And yeah.
But in exchange, I made a promise.
So in exchange for having Mary, Mary's father made a promise. It's like, this is not biblical in any way, right? Mary's father is not really part of the equation in any way, other than her and Joseph getting married. But he's not even, like, we don't know his name, we don't know who he is, we don't know anything about him, right? So yeah.
We have been waiting.
So here's the next portion here. We see that this woman says, we have been waiting, and she's talking to Mary here. Look at her outfit, and we'll kind of come back to this. This is someone who has been waiting for Mary to come here for a specific thing. Where is here? I think this is Jerusalem, and I think that Herod is ruling from Jerusalem here, which would kind of make sense, I guess. Although maybe it's Bethlehem where they're at. They're kind of close together. Obviously, proximity-wise, they're only about 2 miles apart. So maybe this is Bethlehem, and Herod is ruling from Bethlehem as well, which is strange. There's just some weirdness that's kind of going on here. I don't really know who this character is or what her role is, but we're going to see her again in a second. Take note of her outfit here, and we're going to see that kind of repeat in a moment here as well. So you see, that is the repeat that I was just talking about. So we see the woman, she's wearing that gold and red. We see it again here with all of these women. So Mary, who is somewhere in this group, I think she's right here, she gets put into this group of servants, it seems like, for Herod. And this is Herod the Great, okay? So somehow she got put into this group of servants or whatever these women are. So here we see Mary walking in. This same woman in the back is kind of inviting her in and bringing her into this. I don't know what the timeline is for this. Like, is this during the time that she's pregnant? Is this before she's betrothed to Joseph? It's there's no, I don't know. It's just there's no biblical connections here that I'm making throughout this section. Here we see her again. You can clearly see Mary with her costume here. She's wearing that red and tan, and she's holding some sort of garment here in front of her. Then we see Herod walking in with what looks like a wife maybe here, and then Herod on this side, who's played by the same guy who plays Hannibal Lecter.
Great Herod, the prophecy speaks of the coming Messiah.
What need have we of a Messiah?
So a couple good things here. If we scoot back a little bit, we see a shepherd with a bunch of goats. This is actually an interesting thing because we don't often think of Israeli shepherds with goats, but they definitely would have had goats as well, not just sheep. So it's cool to see. Almost always in the nativity, right? We don't really have goats in the nativity. We have sheep. We'll have like cows and donkeys and stuff, but we don't often have goats. But that would have been a natural thing that they used. They used the goats for milk and for their meat, obviously, and for their fur. And for their horns. And so we would have seen a lot of goats. What do you think a shofar is, right? It's a, well, I guess it was a ram's horn. So maybe a little bit different, but are rams goats? Or is a ram a male sheep? I don't know. You guys let me know in chat. Is a ram a goat or a sheep? I think it's a sheep, right? Or is it I don't know. Can a shofar be made from both? That's my question. Anyway. Okay, it's a male sheep. I have an info broker over here in the corner. Anyway, we don't often see shepherds with goats in nativity scenes, but we also see the shepherd here,
So the coming Messiah.
as well as the Star of Bethlehem, which is kind of cool. I like the way that it's portrayed there. It looks really, really cool.
What need have we of a Messiah?
So next we see what need we have of a Messiah coming from Herod. This makes a lot of sense to me as well, as Herod would not want he would not want a Messiah to come. Why? Because Herod is a very paranoid king, okay? He's like he thinks that everybody's trying to kill him, including his own family, to the point where he even killed some of his own family that he thought was trying to overthrow him. To the point where when he died, there was a mandate on his death that they go and they kill a ton of other officials throughout all of Israel because they knew that nobody would be upset that he died. So he killed a bunch of other people so that people would be in mourning on the same day that he died. So he's a very paranoid, very crazy kind of leader, okay? He did not want anybody else to be in power while he was in power. And so it makes sense that he would not want a Messiah to come while he's in power because he wants that power for himself. So that does make sense there.
Let it be understood.
So here we see Mary again, and she's kind of approaching Herod with some Pharisees and Sadducees over here. We got some regular townsfolk in the back over here. I think the costuming actually looks pretty good. This is something that I did notice all throughout, is like a lot of the costuming looks pretty good. A lot of the cinematography looks really, really good. You would expect this from a Netflix show for sure. It's just some of the accuracy of like what we're seeing. Like, why is Mary here? What job is she doing for Herod the Great that she would be here, right? Just seems a little bit off for me.
I'm your king.
Right here is another thing, Herod showing his power. So he's saying, I am your king. And in front of him is someone who he has just impaled with what looks like porcupine quills. Looks like it almost is reminiscent for me of like a crown of thorns. And you can even see the blood actually coming down from his forehead and around his eyes. It looks like almost like some version of a crown of thorns that he's like pushed into this guy's head. And you can see his queen over here is smiling at it almost, which is creepy. And then he's kind of asserting his dominance as King Herod. So obviously someone either misspoke or did something wrong or made a mistake, and he has punished them for it, being the king that he is. This is pretty true to life, I would say. I don't know if this punishment itself is true to life, but for Herod to be that upset makes a lot of sense to me. So that was interesting as well. We see here, he looks towards Mary, at least what seems to be Mary in this moment, and he gets almost like a premonition. So he says, child, and then we see Jesus's hand, or someone's hand being crucified, right? As they're holding down the hand and nailing in a nail there. Again, great cinematography. I don't know what's quite going on there, though. We see a couple of different things throughout the frames of this moment here. We see the hammer hitting, then we see the skies as lightning hits, then we see a nail, what seems to be in a cross, but nobody on it, and then a lightning, and then some more sky here. Back to the nail, lightning, and then we get back to Herod here as he's like coming out of that premonition, like looking towards the future. Just strange. I don't know what the connection is there or how it's actually going to be shown in the movie itself. I'm not sure if I'll do a full review on this movie or not. If you guys want me to do that, let me know for sure.
You are far more powerful than words, child. So
this is an interesting sentence as well. Again, just breaking down this trailer, she says, "You are more powerful than words, child." This is quite interesting as well. Like, is she saying that she's more powerful than a prophecy? Because that's just not true, right? If it's a godly prophecy, it's going to come true, period. And so I wonder what she's trying to convey there. Also, we have here Joseph kind of like creepily looking on Mary as she's doing her laundry, which I find quite interesting here. Maybe this is how he finds her to begin with, and he's like, "Dad, I want her." But it seems like she's already in that like tan and red cult phase. So maybe she joined that before she met Joseph, and then now she's going into becoming his wife. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are amiss here for me.
I don't understand how it is your will that I should marry this perfect stranger.
So I don't understand how it is your will that I should marry this perfect stranger. This is an interesting thing as well, because for her, this would have been a very normal thing. Like an arranged marriage between her and Joseph would have been the least of her worries in this weird fictional world that we're kind of looking at, where Herod is like killing people with porcupine quills, right? This would have been something she actually probably looked forward to, is being married, because it would give her freedom from her immediate family of her father and mother, but it would also give her a husband who she now gets to do life with. And like, this is not a world in which she's like, oh man, I have my middle school crush and we're going to get married, and my high school sweethearts, we're going to get together. This is not that kind of world, right? The first century, this is what happened. You got married because your parents put you together, right? And so this wouldn't have been a weird thing for her. And I don't think that she ever praised this, right? There's no point in the Bible where she's like, God, why would you make me marry this random guy? It didn't work that way, right? She wasn't like, oh man, I hate Joseph, I don't want to marry him. That's just not the case at all. And then here we see what I believe to be an angel, who looks fine. I think angels generally look like humans, and so this is good here. He's a little bit gaunt and kind of mysterious, which is fine. I think that's good to portray an angel. I would have hated it if the angel came in with like giant wings and like all that craziness, because angels just don't look like that generally. They look like humans. Almost every time we see them in scripture, people just think that they're humans, and then they're like, oh, you're not a human. So that makes sense there. We see Mary kind of laying and like praying. I'm not sure what's happening there, but this is, I assume, Gabriel, who's coming to give her this message that she's going to have a son.
You are to have a son.
But it's not possible.
All things.
I guess this would be a dream, right? If we're thinking biblically, that would be a dream where he shows up there. Or does he come in person and then Joseph has a dream? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll see Mary again here, though.
Are possible.
Here's Mary. This is really interesting. I think they did this iconography here very intentionally, where Mary's head is kind of like cocked to the side like that. That's a very like traditional artistry way of portraying Mary. So I think that was very, very intentional there.
You've laid with a man.
No.
So this is her father here, who's telling her, you have laid with a man. No. And she's saying, no, I haven't. So this is her father, who we saw at the beginning of the clip here. He says, you have laid with a man. She says, no. And it looks like they're actually going to try to kill her because they believe that she's laid with a man before she was married.
No. Father, I need...
So here is like an angry mob that's like trying to kill her. And she says, Father, I need you. Obviously trying to get him to protect her from this crazy mob. And then Joseph is going to come to her rescue here.
I need you.
You'll be put to death.
So Joseph there, he grabs a hammer and then he goes against this whole crowd. You can see him kind of running in with the hammer and about to attack the rest of the crowd there as he jumps in.
I'm going to bring this child into the world with love.
I'm going to bring this child into the world with love. Okay, that's a fine line. I don't think it's horrible. But yeah.
I don't care what they say.
So Joseph is now protecting her, and then we can see the chuppah. This is their marriage ceremony here as they're getting married and probably heading towards Bethlehem would be my guess. But you can see a bunch of olive trees around them, which is a cool touch. And then their families surrounding them as well. Although I'm not sure if I see her dad here.
I will love you as best as I can.
This Messiah, is he real?
That's interesting. Is this their cart to Bethlehem?
This Messiah.
Like, where's are they like, they're taking a carriage? Okay, this is the funniest part of the trailer to me so far. I'll say this. I think the CGI looks pretty good, like of the city and stuff. Although no city was that size during the time of Jesus. Like, none of them were that big. Except for maybe Jerusalem, maybe, but not even. Like, you have to understand how small of a location Israel is. Some of the cities today in Israel are not this big. Like, this is a massive, massive city. But the funniest part to me is this carriage. Like, I don't think this was a thing, especially not for someone as poor as Mary, for sure. Definitely not. Just strange. Really, really strange decision there for me. That's so funny. So yeah, we see Mary in that cart there.
Is he real?
We see Herod. He's playing with like a Roman mask, which kind of makes sense. He very much leaned into the Roman aspect of things. Going that far, I'm not sure, but yeah, makes sense that he would have a mask like that. He's also asking if the Messiah is real, if he's about to be born, and then of course he's going to have his decree where he tries to kill all the babies under 2, all the males under 2 in the land, and so that'll come later. I'm sure that'll be near the end of the movie.
Is he being born?
We see Mary giving birth there, and then we have Herod in his court becoming very, very angry about this Messiah, probably after the wise men come, maybe? Which would also be out of a timeline unless they jump around, but yeah.
Where is he? Tell me! Where is he?
Here's an interesting part here. We see someone who's carrying away, I don't know who this person is. Maybe it's an angel, maybe it's something else. Looks like Mary is being carried away unconscious from some sort of commotion that's going on.
Love would cost you dearly.
And then Joseph is following after her there. So interesting here. Here's where it gets very much like Mulan, like battle warrior. We get Mary riding a horse through fire, which is like, it's just like the chef's kiss, like on top of this trailer for sure. Here she is, Mulan riding on the horse, driving right through the fire. Then we get this scene here between Mary and someone else who we obviously haven't met through the trailer yet. Says it will pierce your heart.
Pierce your heart.
And then someone's trying to find Mary here.
Love would cost you dearly. It will pierce your heart.
Right there, we get a sword through the attic where she's hiding. And she's actually holding Jesus here as a newborn. I didn't realize that before. But we see she's hiding as they're coming with swords right then to attack her and kill her. When the decree came to kill every male under 2 years, it was not in the same it's not in the same time period. Like they run away to Egypt because God had warned them ahead of time, right? And so they wouldn't be hunting Jesus as a newborn here, especially.
But in the end, love will save the world.
Yeah, quite interesting. That last line obviously makes sense. Jesus and God is love, right? Jesus comes to save the world. Love has come to save the world. I get that line. I think that makes sense there. I just have some questions, man. I just have some serious questions for sure. Anyway, I won't talk about it too much, but definitely some questions that I have about this trailer for sure. If you guys want me to do a whole review on this, you're gonna have to let me know. Like, if you want me to get into this, definitely you're gonna have to comment below and tell me, hey, I want you to do a full review, because I don't know if I'm gonna watch this thing, dude. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this. Leave a comment below, and of course, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.